We have greatly misunderstood what it means to be a warrior. Trinidad, a warrior must defend himself or herself. A warrior must defend the innocent. And that does mean utilizing weapons from time to time. Spiritual upliftment of our minds is what will also help us to use the power of the gun, not for crime, but for justice and real self-protection. That is the first step, but it can only happen if we implement it into our laws. We need to be able to use weapons, not just the police and not just the military. After all, the police and the military are not always there, are they? That is why the Sikhs are so strong. They understand that to be a saint, you must be a soldier. And to be a soldier, you must be a saint. They are beyond duality, and that is what keeps religion pure. So that spiritual people do not come spacey-wacy, and so that soldiers do not come brutes, thugs in the street. Life is about being a human being soft when it is time to be soft, and to be the hardest of the hard when that time comes too. We are diverse as human beings. Criminals are in the police and the military. What do we as citizens, law-abiding citizens, do about this? We sit back and we get taken advantage of. Will we allow our women and our children to be raped in this country? The purpose of this documentary was to show you who the real enemy is, so you can figure out how to defend yourself against that enemy. I want to make it very clear that no one group can be classified as the enemy of TNT. This war on earth is not about the people against the government, the citizens against the police. It's not about the innocent bystanders against the government soldiers. It's not about the black people against the white people. It's not about the Indian against the black. It is about the true people against the sellouts. That is all. And both these kinds of people, the true people and the sellout people, come in every shape and size, and even employment position and class. You can find a true person in any walk of life as well as a sellout, no matter how rich, no matter how poor. Let us broaden our horizons to understand this, or we will continue to be limited in our thinking. And in our limitations, we will not be able to defend ourselves. The enemy is actually a mentality. It is the lack of care for the well-being of the soul of our country. And in soul, we are all one. That is why our enemy is this lack of oneness. And what is that lack of oneness, that lack of soul? That is a lack of humanity. I want to make it very clear that it is a mistake for the soft, humane citizens of the country to think that just being soft alone is serving God. That could never be true. It is a mistake for us softies to allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. Perhaps it is our journey to become hard, but intelligently so. Use your minds without forgetting to use your heart. No one else will have the courage to do it unless we do it. So I expect each and every one of the people who listen to this and look at this program to stand up. Some people cannot sacrifice anything. Which of us will be willing to sacrifice our life for that real freedom that we want for our Trinidad and Tobago? Only time will tell. We must understand. A lot of people might think that I am trying to incite a revolution. Yes, I am. But not a mindless rebellion that is born out of violence. No, we must understand that the revolution is outside just as much as it is inside. Productivity is constructive, not destructive. And it takes a positive person to think productively. Material benefits will come. It will come, Trinidad. I want you to understand that this is not just spiritual talk without results. The real freedom outside will come if we find it within ourselves, think and reason it out, and then fight for it on the outside. It is important for the people to know this and do this, or else we will stay slaves forever. We will continue to fool ourselves into thinking that we are in heaven already, and we are not. You want to accept this as your heaven? Trinidad is a country of righteousness. A pure land, my dear brothers and sisters. A land that has been passed down generation to generation. And this is when we used to have a community consciousness, and now, well, our old people, whom we should be respecting, are being forced to relocate. And not just relocate their places of living, but also relocate their values and sell themselves out for big business commercialized entities. Our land is now a place where only the rich will survive, and they will survive by any corrupt means necessary. Malcolm X never meant to be corrupt, my dear friends. He never meant to be violent. When he said by any means necessary, he meant by any authentic, true means necessary. And it is our job, and our job alone, to see what true action means. Whether we like it or not, our land is a place where we must pay for all of our necessities. No matter what, we have to work at a job where we feed the structure that oppresses us many a time, unless we break away and form our own jobs, our own employments, our own businesses that feed the country instead and uplift our people by uplifting our financial stability. Otherwise, we are feeding the structure that takes advantage of us every day as it stays at our doorstep, scraping and knocking at the door, saying that it's going to take everything away from you if you lose your job. Therefore, you must give up everything, including your values and your precious time, to sell out at that job. Does this seem fair? That is why you're trapped in this system. Our old ways are now forgotten. Our old ways of respect, our old ways of farming, natural life, and real medicine, our heritage. This is much more than just clothes and language, my friends. Our old ways of independent living, our old solid ways. It is no wonder our youth are so atheist, my dear friends. I mean, look at the religion today. Religion has been destroyed brutally by every sect in some way. It has been used not to uplift our country many a time, but to take advantage of trusting people. This is the true crime. Today we have a world full of pseudo-religions that do not resemble their initial states of being. Real religion is very rare to find, and it is even more rare to teach to our kids. Now we need to find real ways of communicating. We need to talk the talk that needs to be talked, and we need to walk that talk ourselves. Or else they'll never learn, and they'll never get up when they need to get up. They'll just satisfy themselves with being a slave, whether it be a poor slave or a rich slave. Being a saint soldier is all about discipline and following the rules of conduct. Laws, basically. And you know how the religious always say that we must follow God's law over man's law. This can simply mean that we should follow the good laws and not the bad laws. Modern society is enslaved completely by the corrupt laws made by corrupt men. After all, it is they who wrote and passed them. Some might have said that God commanded them and whatever, but they wrote it, so it's they who ushered it in. We, the citizens, cannot afford to believe that following these corrupt men's laws will ever lead to freedom or happiness. Don't be naive, Trinidad. We need to reform our laws and put them in sync with what can be called natural law, the timeless law that we all know in our hearts. Real integrity. The Christians call it God's law, the Muslims might call it Sharia law, and the Vedic Hindus might call it natural law. We all know the law, but we allow lies from corrupt people to fog it all up. Just because they say something is God's law doesn't mean it automatically is. We don't need to argue about details of this and that legislation when the foundation is wrong. And tell me this, what sense does it make to have any kind of law if the elites can easily rise above it? It makes no sense, but who needs to hold them to it? Is it God? No, it is us, the citizens. We have that responsibility, and it's time to take up our duty as disciplined saint soldiers. The world thinks that Jesus is a joke. They think that Atma is a fable. They think that Brahma is a bear. They think that Allah is a terrorist. This means that there is a great war against spirituality, against intelligence that is not just cold logic, but also has heart. This is our original strength, my dear brothers and sisters. This is that thing that we so lovingly call common sense. And this documentary simply hopes that you will find your own way of getting to it, and you will use it for the betterment of the entire human race. Do you understand that we could make this country the first place in civilization that every creed and race finds an equal place? Look around you. Perhaps the seed has already been planted. I mean, look at it. Chinese, Indian, African, Spanish, and even whites. All here, living in harmony, aspiring, achieving together, in spite of all the alcohol and drugs, misinformation by media, and all the corruption that is trying to saturate our minds and take our hearts. In spite of all this, many of us Trinbagonians find peace. And this is a true fact. In spite of all the false development happening in this country, we still find real fulfillment. And that speaks volumes about what it means to be not only a Trinidadian, but a human being. And we are very humane creatures here in Trinidad and Tobago. But will we walk the line? Will we be warriors who reform this country's political system by simply doing things more independently and stopping relying on the government? Take the power away from them and put the power more with the people. There needs to be a government, but they don't need to have so much power over us. We need to work with the government. We, the law-abiding citizens, not the criminal, sell-out people who call themselves citizens. Ask yourself, Trinidad, will we become the one tiny, unsuspecting country that influences the world? I believe that we will one day. I believe that the whole world, yes, even that international person who we worship so much, even they will look at us and say, wow, I love this country. I wish that our country could be like that country. Be like Trinidad, a place of true balance. This documentary will not cause that great change in the nation, but as Tupac Shakur once said, maybe it will inspire the spark, the flame that will cause that change. We need to understand that who God bless, no man shall ever curse. Rashortiai was a great example of this. We need to understand that we do have role models. We can reach out via the internet, via our libraries, and via our elders, and grasp at the intelligence of revolutionaries like Malcolm X, Sant Bhindranwale, Maurice Bishop, Marcus Garvey, and more real warriors who died for us so that they could wake us up to become warriors ourselves.